Welcome to Conversations with a Couple of Crones. We invite you to join us as we gather around our hearth and talk about our journeys with the Gene Keys and our personal transformations.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with a Couple of Crones. And we are on Season 2, Episode 11 already. Episode 11, one of my favorite Gene Keys. We like to begin our conversations. I'm Meghan, and my friend Lizzie is with me. And we like to begin our conversations with a grounding into where we are right now. So it's a where am I now? And where I am now is almost a week into having our new sage word for the attraction sphere. But the other thing that went on, which we will actually be talking about in this episode, but the other thing that I'm really contemplating and grounding into my day-to-day life is that I made a choice to visit a naturopathic physician here in town. And I did that on Thursday. And so now at this point, we have a lot of tests that are being run for the next couple of weeks, blood tests and urine tests, and to help me and the doctor understand what foods I might be sensitive to, what hormones might need to be adjusted in this post-menopausal body. And I'm hoping in a couple of weeks to know my body better, I think is the best way to put it. So that's where I'm now. I will also say, since we are in the Venus sequence, in relationship with my husband, we have 3 dates every week that are non-negotiable pretty much. And they're breakfast dates. That way we can have 3 dates that would cost the same as one evening date, right?
Excellent planning.
Excellent plan. So in one of those morning dates, he admitted to me how he's been depressed since his cancer diagnosis, treatment, and then the long road back from the treatment. The cancer was diagnosed it'll be almost 3 years pretty soon. And he's been kind of fumbling around in melancholy, really, which I recognized, but it was great to hear him say something about it, to admit to it, to be self-aware enough to know this is what he's doing and want to share it with me. So that was a lovely moment between us. I, of course, being a woman, had 1,000,001 questions. How is this affecting your day-to-day life? How is it? I actually held back. I held back and did not ask him 1,000,000 questions. They were all running through my mind. I have since then maybe asked 4 potent questions. That's about it. But I've been very careful not to have him go back into his shell. I didn't want him to all of a sudden feel bombarded by this woman who's interested in his inner life, right? So I've just asked him maybe one question every couple of dates about, how he's doing, how he thinks if there's anything, just things like, are you any better? Are there things being who I am, of course, my first thing is to want to fix it. But I know better.
Say that.
I know better. I can't fix somebody else, first of all. Second of all, that's probably not what he needs. He probably just needs to be heard, So that said, I still did have some fix-it suggestions because he was in the same conversation complaining about a couple of things that happen in his life. And of course, ideas came into my mind, but at least I'm a little better at floating the suggestions in a, you have to do this, kind of way.
Yeah.
I do have force as my life's work shadow, after all. And I do have dominance in this particular sphere. So, yeah. So I tried to put all of those on hold and try to come from the gift place. I have to tell you that this is interesting. The appointment that I had for the health appointment, I had done a whole article for our Gene Keys Unleashed, and it's actually on our website about how I wanted to come to this appointment from a place of my gifts and from this place of synergy and regency and that this person was not going to be an authority figure that I put up on a
Yeah.
pedestal and all of that. When I went to the appointment, I was terribly messy about the whole thing.
Really?
Yes, I was not in that Regency place. I was not in that synergistic place. I didn't feel like I had put her on a pedestal, but I also felt like I kept apologizing for myself in really subtle ways and that I kept making weird jokes that didn't land. So I was very messy in my appointment. So anyone who's read my article and how lovely I put that all together in this great article, because of course I could edit it. How do you edit an
Yeah.
appointment? Yeah, I wish I could go back to the appointment and say, you know, those stupid jokes I told, would you please forget them all? I can't go back and edit the appointment. But anyway, just for anyone, it was a messy appointment, but it's the beginning of a relationship. It's
Yeah.
only the beginning.
Yeah.
It's the first
Yeah.
appointment. I have another one at
Difficult,
the end of the month.
difficulty in the beginning.
Good difficulty in the beginning. Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Gene
Yeah.
Key 8, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Lizzie? Where are you today?
Well, like you, of course, I've moved into the attraction sphere and I absolutely love my sage word, but more about that later. I actually really love this gene key. I've got 62.6 here and I really didn't like it very much the first time I worked with this gene key, or probably the second time. The third time I came around, and this time I really love it, because it's the shadow is intellect, and that was a hard one. That's been a hard one for me. It's been 3 years to get to a point where I can accept that intellect actually is a shadow.
Yeah.
Because in my many years of inadequacy and lack of self-belief, I thought that intellect was my only gift,
Yeah.
That's all these things wrong with me, but at least I'm brainy.
Yeah. Yep.
My life is shit, but at least I'm intelligent. But I'm actually really loving it, and I'm loving the sage word, which, as I say, we're going to talk about it later. I'm also loving the Dare to be Divine work that you are doing, and that I'm on this wild dare journey with you, and it's added this whole extra layer of creativity and like right brain to my contemplation, because I have done a little bit of journaling on the various because it's the cities, so it's the vision you're using, the vision birds from the dream arc, which is just inspired, by the way, just so brilliant. And I've done a bit of journaling on it, but mostly I've just been like holding the energy and I've been loving making art journal cards about the questions that you've been posing in there. So that's been brilliant. And I suppose the other thing, you kind of touched on it there when you were talking about where you are now, is feeling into my gifts. This has been something that has been really building since we started the Sage's journey. And I can't remember which gene key I was in. It might have been when we moved into the purpose when it was part of the activation sequence, because we were in the purpose for 3 months, weren't we? With the activation sequence, the month gap, and then the Venus sequence. And I had that kind of, I think I was even talking to you on Voxer when the real realization of it dropped in, that I'm not operating, my default state isn't the shadows anymore. My default state is the gift, and the shadows come in, but the default state is the gift. And I feel like I'm just building on that all the time. So, I'm in the gift of precision now. So I'm enjoying that. It's funny. I had I haven't told you this, but Megan, I told you I was going to be having a conversation with my manager at work.
Yes.
Because we'd set all these objectives that were aimed at a leadership role, because I went for that promotion, which I didn't get, which I'm glad about now. But I had this conversation with her yesterday where I said, I want to just drop all of those objectives, because that's not the way I don't want to do this. I don't want to put my energy there anymore. And I said, I went into that interview determined to be myself in the interview. And I said, I could have given them all the corporate jargon. I mean, obviously I said some of the right things that they want to hear and these sorts of things. And I said, but I deliberately went in as myself and didn't do what I normally do in interviews, which is say what I think they want me to say.
Right.
I didn't give them the corporate jargon. And she said, interestingly, she had actually gone for the job above that. So, her manager, she went for that role. And she said she went into the interview and gave them the whole corporate thing. And they actually said to her in the feedback, they wanted more of her as the person rather than her the corporate being. And it's like,
oh my God.
So we ended up actually having a bit of a laugh, because I was a bit nervous about having the conversation. She was brilliant, by the way. She just completely got it 100%. But we ended up having a laugh about it, how we had approached these interviews from these completely different ways, and neither of them were right. So it was like, you can't bloody win. But no, I'm feeling really, really, really good. And I'm really excited about this conversation, because we're going to talk about our attraction sage words. Yes. And I love my attraction sage words. So,
well, here,
Megan,
let me set you up, and then I'm going to have you start. Okay.
Okay.
So at the beginning of this week, on last Sunday, we were waiting with bated breath for our sage words, and they didn't come until later in the day, right? Well, we finally got our sage words. Then we both of us knew that we were going to be having a podcast coming up. So usually at the beginning of the week, we sit there going, what are we going to talk about? And clearly our sage words had to, were pretty strong in our auras, so to speak. But we hadn't had the opening ceremony yet. That wasn't until, for Lizzie, it was too late for her to even go. So I put together 7 questions about the sage word before we even had the opening ceremony. So you're getting these, even though they have some flavor of what Richard actually asked us to do in that opening ceremony. Yeah. So we're just going to go one question at a time, I think. And the first question, I'm going to have you start, Lizzie.
Okay.
What did the word that you have as your sage word in this attraction sphere, what did the word feel like before you even understood it?
Okay. So my word is myth. I love this word. And it's funny, you when you sent the questions through and you said the title you had for this first question was the first delight of reading our word.
Yeah.
And delight is actually exactly what I felt when I read this word. I was so happy. I mean, I was literally grinning when I read the word, because my entire Gene Keys experience for the last 3.5 years has felt like a mythic quest. And I use the word myth all the time.
Yeah.
I use the words, mythic quest all the time. The Gene Keys is all about archetypes. And in my writing, I've been writing in terms of archetypes and myths. I have been envisaging this journey through the Gene Keys is my mythic quest, and I've got all this imagery, and I write about it a lot, and I feel it. I can feel it. It's like, knights, these brave knights, and valor. I mean, valor is even one of my
Mhm.
cities, and these great grail quests that we go on. And I've had this image of myself as Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones for such a long time that I've been playing with in my mind. And when you made my Oracle deck, for my Golden Path, when I finished my whole Golden Path, and you made me that gorgeous Oracle deck, you dressed my goat, which is the animal for my life's work and brand, and in the brand key you dressed it in this fantastic armor that was, so it's like my goat knight. And it just, so when I read Myth, it was just like, this fits me like a second skin, was how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt it in my body, and I felt like I was born to be part of a great saga, even if it's all just in my head.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So, yeah, so I
So
absolutely love it.
for anyone who wants to know, Lizzie is a 62.6. So this is
Yes, yes.
the sage word for 62.6. Right. So I'm a
Yeah, and
45.5. Just wanted to let you guys know because those are
yeah, yeah. Um, so
yeah.
what about you, Megan? What did it
Well,
feel like for you before you
right.
understood it?
I got a preview of it actually. So back in would have been March, January, February, March was the Radiance, and one of the members of of Gene Keys Unleashed had 45.5 as their Radiance. So I got a preview of what the word was. Okay, she didn't share the whole everything, but the word was Regency, and so I got it obviously again on Sunday, and it's let me read it without trying to squint. I have it up on my bulletin board. I also have it in my notebook. Regency, universal respect for every individual soul to rule its own existence. And how I felt when I got this Regency was I felt pulled up, like I had to stand up straight. I couldn't keep I couldn't keep pretending that I didn't have power. But I also couldn't keep pretending to have false power.
Yeah,
So, and this just fits so beautifully because my life's work, the city is majesty.
yeah,
So it's an echo of
yeah,
that as well. And majesty there is all about the majesty of the human form, the majesty the majesty of being. And so Regency refines that into this almost it's a chord kind of, but it's we'll get to the sutra in a minute, but it's called Summer Rain. There's this natural cleanliness, cleansing of shadow that comes with just owning the word Regency. It's like you just can't play in those shadow realms anymore,
no,
or if you're going to be a true loving regent, right? So
yeah,
yeah, that's how I felt when I first got, echoed that word. But all of that has now been translated into words. The feeling itself was this, the body standing up straighter, my
yeah.
posture getting better, my heart opening, my shoulders settling, not too far back, not too far forward, just this, yeah, that fits.
Oh,
That fits.
yeah,
And I love yours too. They fit. Don't they
I know.
fit? Yeah.
That's what I felt. And like I say, like it feels like a second skin. It was just like, of course,
Of course.
what
Yeah.
other word could there possibly be but myth?
Yeah.
How perfect is that? Yeah. Oh, so the next question that Megan asked was about the image or being behind the word. And this is what she actually asked. If the sage line were a figure, landscape, creature, weather, book, doorway, or spell, what would it be? So what about you, Megan?
Oh, this was actually kind of easy because I've been creating portraits through using AI, portraits for each one of my sage words. So the portrait for Regency came through as a nature queen, really. This beautiful, she still had red hair, not white, but redheaded queen with a very delicate crown, but also in a bower of, for some reason, I chose honeysuckle and wild roses, not,
Wow.
yeah, wild roses and honeysuckle, and they're woven into the crown as well. And she's holding a very delicate scepter, but she's all in green, and all around her is green. And I'm not sure if rain actually came into the image. Probably did because the sutra is called Summer Rain. So that just came forward. So it was a being. And I like how this ties in with Richard's request during the opening of the sages of the attraction sphere to find an ally. And it turns
Yes.
out she is my ally.
Yeah.
So she will, even though she's the attraction sphere portrait, and her archetypal self will continue through the Venus sequence with me, which will be interesting to notice how
Yeah.
she interacts with the other portraits I'm going to make, So
Yeah.
what came
Yeah,
up
I
with
thought
you?
that
Yeah,
I thought that was brilliant that, you created this ally
yeah.
and then Richard said, find an
Find an
ally.
ally.
It's like, how perfect could
The
that be?
question was even there,
I
right?
haven't just found her, I have a picture of her.
I do.
This is what she looks like. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, for me, I really loved this question because I have this, it's like this ever expanding, vast internal world. Which is it's part Middle Earth, of course. It's part. I don't know if you've ever read. There's a series of books by Philip Jose Farmer called The World of Tears, and it's tears as in layers, not crying, and it's basically this fantastical world that is built in tears, and there's all these different types of environments, and this character travels through all these different places. So that's what I've been imagining, like the deeper I've gone into the Gene Keys, this world just gets bigger and bigger, and it's like it's Middle Earth, and it's the world of of tears, and it's like the Irish land of the She, which is the Irish for fairy, it's like this fairy magical land it's like Earth, but it's more than Earth. It's like Earth multiplied. And of course, I'm the heroine
Of
in
course,
this
I hope
place,
so.
because this is my happy place, and myth is and story is my language. But what I really loved, I loved in the question how you added weather, because that made me really think. Because this is mostly the sun is going to be always shining in this land because it's so lush and fecund and fertile, and it's like all this vegetation and flowers and trees. So there's lots of sunshine, but the storms come in. I envisage like these great dramatic thunderstorms. We had one a few weeks ago, which was just a mental thunderstorm and lightning, and so it's like really heavy rain that it really needs, and just leaves it lasts like short thing, short bursts of rain that just water this mythical land and leave it smelling amazing. And I thought, it's a bit like the shadows, this thing that I was saying earlier about feeling like I'm operating from the gift as a default, but the shadows come in. Of course the shadows come in because you never get rid of them, but they're like these sudden storms. But then afterwards, it's even better. It's a bit like you with your summer rain and the cleansing, like the shadow comes in, but the fact that I'm able to move through it so quickly,
Yeah.
means that what is at the other end is much cleaner and clearer and richer, you know? So yeah, I really liked this question.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me ask you the next one. So this is the sutra as a spell or a
Oh,
portal.
yeah.
So what does the sutra do to the body or imagination? What does your sutra
Okay.
do? Now, obviously, you'll
Okay.
have to tell us your sutra.
Okay. So, my sutra is called The Lovely Language. I hope I can say this without crying because every time I read it, it makes me want to cry. It's called The Lovely Language. The lonely language that no one speaks. The homely language that all understand. The lovely language of unraveling realms. The only language that brings unity to all. I mean, if that is not one ring to rule them all, I don't know what
Oh,
it
this
is.
is true.
Do you know what
It
I mean?
is.
So
I hadn't even thought that. Of course it is.
every time I read it, I just think, oh my God, you know, and it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's not fancy literature, you know, it's not like some sort of, you know, poetic allegory that he's got. It's very plain, simple language. But it is a great portal into understanding this Gene Key 62, which is all about language and words. And when I read the sutra, what that felt like in my body was just like this sigh of relief that just rippled through my whole body, because I recognized the three languages that he's like. The first time I read it, I tried to do it the way he talks about, look at it, gaze at it, read it, sound it out. So it didn't really, it just felt right. But then as I dived into it, I was like, yeah, the lonely language, that he taught, he says the lonely language that no one speaks. That was my life for such a long time. We've talked about this before because I know that you've felt this with your line 6, like you're an alien, like you're not talking the same language as anybody else, and you don't understand them and they don't understand you. And that for a huge amount of my life, that was the reality that I lived in. It's like, what the hell is going on here? I don't belong on this planet. And then the homely language, the thing that really dropped in around that was like homely, this feeling in my body was that first glimpse of belonging that I got when I was pregnant and then became a mother, because that became a language that I could talk that other people understood as well.
Yeah.
And even if I didn't completely understand them, because even motherhood felt pretty alien a lot of the time, it was still a bit of there was a common language there. Then the lovely language, and this was more than a sigh of relief. This was just like a great whoop. I don't know if you've listened to the Gene Key 48, he talks about Walt Whitman's barbaric yawp, this great whoop of joy. It was like, yes, because the Gene Keys is the lovely language for me, and because it is all about language, and it's just got these incredible words and poetry, because he's a poet, Richard, and so, and it opened up this whole world, the fact you and I can talk about the Gene Keys and the shadows and the gifts and the cities, and we know what we're talking. I might not have your Gene Keys, but I know what you're talking about. I understand, and you understand, like we get each other. And that, for me, that is just like incredible for me, that suddenly I'm talking the same language as other people. And the fact that it is that, this language of myth and archetype and poetry and just the beautiful use of words, I've got like these 64 words for love now in the cities. It's just, so I just love it. I absolutely love everything about it. It's so simple, but it's me. It feels like me. And I think I said this to you the other day, and I said it to Haley in a message to her as well. It's like, I can't believe how spot on my sage words are. It's like Richard has read my mind and written my story in these sage words. So yeah, I love it. What about you?
Um, this is an interesting one, and it's taken a while for me to feel into it because 45, for anyone who doesn't know, goes from dominance to synergy to communion. So dominance, so the hierarchy is a big thing in the shadow of this. And here he is talking about summer rain. And we started with Regency. Regency fits with
Yeah,
hierarchy, right?
yeah.
But now we're into summer rain. Sit quietly in nature for a single hour, and you will witness the great miracle. God will come join you in many ways, weaving your heart back into the whole. So, what is the question? What does this sutra do to the body or imagination? My body, it opens my heart because what could be less hierarchical than summer rain?
Yeah.
Raining on everything at the same time. No one person over there on an outdoor throne gets more rain than the person over here. We're all everyone's getting the same amount. It's that yeah, insecurity is the dilemma for this gene key. And I can just feel that insecurity going, but I need more rain. I'm more important. Give me more rain, right?
Yeah.
I'm more important. But nature doesn't think that way.
No.
Nature just does nature, right? And this is just putting us right into the synergistic world of nature, which works. I was listening this morning to the EFT script that Samantha has available for us in our membership for 45. And she talked about the self-organizing nature of life. And I think that's what this sutra is helping
Yeah.
me to understand and remember as Regency, the self-organizing nature of life, and that we as humans can also share in that synergistic relationship with each other
Yeah.
if we can move out of hierarchy. So yeah, that's which kind of moves into the next question. Um, what the word is healing without forcing it. So instead of shadow hunting, what does our sage word, what does for me synergy, not synergy, Regency, naturally bring into balance? What does Regency naturally bring into balance? So, so I made a couple of notes, which is why I'm sitting here looking at my little notes here. But it shifts me from controlling the forest to remembering I am one being inside it, inside it. So I am one being inside of life, right? And then summer rain softens the power field because this is a gene key about power. So um, that's the nature self-balancing the field, right? This is kind of hard for me to answer. But I already alluded to it. Rain falls on the queen. It falls on the beetle on the ground. It falls on cars. It falls on everything, right? Without ranking anybody. So that's what it's healing. This regency is not, and that beautiful line, universal respect for every individual soul to rule its own existence. So let's take an example, that meeting that date I had with my husband, where he is sharing something tender to himself, to me, about himself that has been bubbling in his own personal cauldron for months and months.
Yeah.
This depression he's feeling and this sense of feeling old and not being able to do what he could do in the past. Well, if I can't respect his sovereignty, I'll run over it with my, oh, have you thought of doing this? Or what else
Yeah.
is going on in your mind? Or have you thought of, do you want Haley to do a reading for you? Blah, 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 all this stuff, because I think maybe I know more than he does in this particular realm of inner work, right?
Yeah.
And, but if I don't respect his sovereignty, there won't even be any kind of conversation, because all he'll do is get all bordered up. I mean, he'll just sit there going, stop, stop, stop. You're you're pushing things on me. So I'm not, I don't know if I really have an answer to this right now. I feel like I'm just throwing out a lot of ideas, because I'm in the midst of allowing
Yeah.
this Regency to heal my whole life's worth of playing in the field of dominance, which the field of dominance can be being the dominator, which is what I would have been doing in that conversation with Tim. I'm dominating the field. Oh, I seem, I know better because I've been doing inner work for so long.
Yeah.
Use the word depression. That's inner work. So I'm superior to you. So here are all these ideas I have for you. I'm not respecting where he's at if I'm doing all that. That was all inner dialogue, by the way. I didn't do that
Yeah.
at the date, although I felt myself moving forward wanting to, because that's old programming, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I lost the other train of thought that I was going on. But it doesn't matter. That's enough.
Yeah. What I what I was thinking, and this is what I've been thinking like all week while you've been talking about this sage word, and just thinking how perfect it is that it's regency, that that it's a regent and not a queen, not a ruler.
Yeah.
Because for me, and especially when you read out that sutra, the summer rain, it's more like, the regent feels more like a steward rather than a ruler over. And
Yeah.
I'm in charge of this forest and this
Right.
land, and I'm in charge of where the rain falls. The regent feels like she's ruling with the people and with the land,
Right.
and she's more
Which
of a
is what the steward does. Yeah, I
yeah,
like that
yeah,
term, steward.
yeah.
Yeah,
That was the feeling I was getting when you were
yeah,
talking about it. Yeah. So I think that's the balance, isn't it? That it's not the power over,
no,
it's the power with.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's lovely. Really lovely. Yeah, it's a good question. Because I hadn't, until you asked this question, I hadn't really thought about it in this way, the balance. But so the sage line for myth talks about telepathy. It says the language of myth as the telepathic higher language of humanity, which is quite, whoa, that's a bit
what a
out there.
line. You could just
I
spend all
know.
month just with that one
I
line.
know, I know, I know. But what that made me think was that, this, how I see this bringing balance is that it's intuitive. It's that lovely language of myth and archetype is so easy because we all get it. We all it's natural, every culture, every race, religion, society, now and as far back as we have recorded history, has operated in this landscape of myth and legend and story. And so we understand it, even if the culture that it's set in is really alien to the one that we know, we understand the story. And I think the way I see it bringing balance is because the shadow here is intellect. So that's facts and figures, information, definitions. It's very tight. It's very, constricted. And I was thinking that, it can kind of fool you into thinking that it's balanced because it has this right and wrong, good and bad, fact and fable, but it's not balanced because it's all in the mind. And I think that the myth, it brings in the feminine, it brings in the heart, it brings in the intuition. And that to me, it's like intellect is just, it can't be balanced because it's just part of the picture. I mean, I love that thing that Richard says about today's facts are tomorrow's fables. And that is so true when you think about things that people really, really believed for hundreds, if not thousands of years, like that the earth was flat and you would fall off the end if you sailed far enough, and that the earth was at the center of the universe. And myth, I was thinking, myth sounds like it's not real when you're in that shadow of intellect, sorry, because, myth is a story. But actually, myth is the only real thing there is. I mean, Richard's, I don't know if it's in 62, but I know it's definitely in one of the gene keys that I've got, where he says, when everything else is gone and all the structures fall away, all that's left is story, and the story, and that's like, and that's, for me, it just, the fact that it brings in that intuition, that heart-led, understanding of things, that's where it's bringing in the balance for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like there's a lot, like you say, I mean, that what's it, the language of myth as the telepathic higher language of humanity. I think I'm probably going to be contemplating that for the rest of my life because it's huge. It's absolutely, it's I mean,
and
it's
yet
mind-blowing.
you're talking about the intuitive nature, and yet we get it. We get that that's true, which is why we're fascinated by that, by him actually bringing it into a sentence, something that we intuitively understand. And I think that maybe is the example right there. We get that. We get, Yes, that line, it's so true.
Yeah. And it's like me sharing my myth, my story, the story of my wounding and my healing. It's not that I'm saying to anyone, when I share any of the stuff that I write about this or that we talk about on the podcast, I'm not saying this is how you do it. This is how you heal yourself.
No.
This is how you sort your shit out. I'm saying this is how I did it. Go and write your own story, because everybody can write their own story. So I mean, it's just, I love it. I keep saying that. I love it. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but I just think it's just so brilliant and so perfect for me. It just, especially since I lived for so long in my mind. I was in that shadow of intellect for most of my life. So to be now in the intuitive language of my heart, it's such a bloody relief.
I know.
It's because it's simple and it's easy.
It's also so much more expanded in a way.
Yeah.
Okay. So how this word attracts experience, because we're in the attraction sphere. This is the little trick, which we're not trick. This is the really, in a way, what the whole next month is going to be. It's trying to explore. I get Regency, you get myth. Those, they resonate so much with us. But now, how does that work in the attraction sphere? So the question I asked is, what kinds of people, stories, conversations, or situations does this energy draw to me? Do you want to start or shall I go
Shall
ahead?
I? Shall I? Okay,
Yeah,
so I actually I just made a list. I'm looking
good.
at my
Go
notes
for
here
it.
because I did make loads of notes about this.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like this is a bit like what we were talking about earlier. I think it might even have been before we hit record, that we feel like we're kind of ahead of the game. And you alluded to it when you said about, you came up with these questions before we'd had the opening ceremony, and loads of these questions are pretty much exactly what Richard told us in the opening ceremony that we could be doing this month in the attraction. It's like we were ahead of the game, and I feel like I've been attracting this archetypal story and myth in, so there's the fact that you've been talking about the story arc that you've got
Yes.
going on
Yes.
at the moment. And it's like we're having this like our conversations, we keep talking about stories and story arc. There's the Wild Dare Field Guide with a Dare to Be Divine wisdom that we're both working. That's the story that, that's like that's myth and
It is.
archetype right there. The fact that, you know, you called in your ally as soon as you read the word Regency. You called in your ally. When I was doing did Richard's little exercise about how to call in an ally. Nothing, got nothing. And then suddenly realized the next day I looked at my little statue of a toad and it was like, oh, hello. I actually called my ally in a few weeks ago.
Quite a few
So,
weeks ago.
it's just like, oh yeah. And even like the books that I'm reading this book at the moment called Still Life, and it's all it's a story about, people. It's just about people, but it's so woven through with myth and archetype and magical realism, and just, the fact that I'm reading that now just feels so right. And, the sage's wisdom, and my whole life feels like a story, and like when we are talking every day on Voxer, it's like we're telling each other stories. And when I listen to you, I'm hearing your story, and and of course, this is all about relationships, the attraction sphere. And my husband is a storyteller.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He's not only an author, he cannot help himself telling stories
Yes.
every day. He's constantly telling stories, and he doesn't just tell you, well, me, he doesn't just tell me information. He
No.
tells me the whole
Tells
story
it
behind the
tells the whole story
information,
behind. He reads it. Yeah.
and it's just it's like, I feel like I'm living inside a story. So this is definitely, I'm attracting that. I'm already attracting that, which is what makes it feel so right and natural.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I'm so happy you went first because I think I came to this question from past experience instead of present.
Right.
And th this key itself attracts power issues. It's about power.
Right.
So in the past, I would have attracted situations where either I was going to dominate or someone else was going to dominate me. And so that's how I came to this question. But, I really like coming to the question from a place of what is Regency attracting towards me? And within that, the synergy. I don't know exactly what Regency is attracting towards me. I know right at this instant, I am incredibly creatively abundant with what I am putting out into the universe. At the same time, though, the whole putting it out into the universe is part, in a sense, of synergy because, like you and our relationship is synergistic
Yeah.
because because synergy is all about holding the field for people to be their own regents, really.
Yeah.
Synergy is about you, Lizzie, and me being totally, absolutely equal in in our own frequency, which then creates a whole field between
Yeah.
us. So it's about holding a field of summer rain. I have to think about that when I go on my dates, just bringing in the summer rain to my date. Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, then maybe I won't jump to the old patterns of dominance, whether, even though my husband is never, this is funny. He has a line 5 in this attraction sphere as well. And the line 5, the two line 5s in this attraction sphere, it's called the battle of the experts. So,
Oh.
so in the past, our relationship has been a lot about, finding where we are experts and then, having battles, little battles, mini battles. That is something I've worked through a lot. But now the idea of bringing in just the summer rain of Regency into that field of us on our dates just sounds lovely. So, yeah. And I feel like I've attracted a couple of places where I can open that field, certainly as a guide in GKU, on
Yeah.
our podcasts, on, articles that I put out about my story, opens up a place for other people to feel included and
Yeah.
heard, because everybody really kind of comes across some of the same issues. There's only 64 shadows,
Yeah.
you know so we're going to have overlap. And then I've been talking in the new discourse section of the Gene Keys as well, holding spaces for people to come into. So yeah, yeah. That actually leads kind of into the next question, which I don't know if you found it was overlapping, but what
It
happens?
was.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
an overlap. What happens in relationship? What does the word be? How does the word behave when another person enters the field? That's a little bit different. How does the word behave when another person enters the field? So how does Regency behave when I'm sitting on my date? That would be actually an example of inviting in the summer rain, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's funny
Yeah.
because I feel like I do this naturally when I'm talking to you on our Voxers. I think I'm
Yeah.
naturally in a synergistic place. And I don't even think of Regency in the sense of being a steward or anything. I'm just, well, I love that word steward. But it's a matter of course, Lizzie has her own space here in this duet that we have going, you know,
Yeah.
because what fun would it be if she didn't? You
I
know,
know. I know.
doesn't make sense. So for some reason, because probably we started with all the Gene Keys language, we're on even footing. We have a
Yeah.
synergy built in. Um, it's my marriage, or a relationship with my son, or old relationships where I may have some of the old patterns of behavior that Regency now can greet in a different way than dominance used to greet it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I saw a lot of overlap between this and the last question, because the two things that I just made a couple of really quick notes about it was you. I wrote Meghan, and like the wild, there's our Voxers,
Mhm.
which open up this storytelling, this myth telling between the two of us, but also this, the Wild Dare Field Guide, which is the Dare to Be Divine project that you are creating, and you're letting me come along for this ride, which is just incredible. It feels like, you've opened a door to a whole glorious world of myth that I had never I hadn't thought of before. You've actually, it's like you've invited me into this work because you've got this real affinity with the dream arc. And I think you particularly have it with the birds because you have an affinity with birds anyway. But you've got a real sort of bone deep understanding about the wisdom that's coming through from those dream arc birds. And when you share that with me, it is like an invitation. You're inviting me into this story that you're telling, but you're not, you're not telling me that I have to think in a certain way or I have to do it in a certain way. You're just saying, here you are. Here's this material. Go and do what you like with it, and it's creating all these stories in my head, which is just, for me, that's just amazing, So I feel like, you aid and abet my storytelling.
Well, people need to
We're
understand.
partners in crime.
People need to know I also have 62 in my chart, in my SQ.
Yeah.
So it's in a place that's more play oriented than the attraction.
And that's the other thing that you've done for me is you've brought in this play where my 62, I mean, apart from the fact that I was in that shadow of intellect for a long time, even the gift precision at first felt very proper and precise. It has to be this way and it has to be in this structure. And in fact, Gene Key 62, our shared 62 and our shared love of words, and 31, which is also in the same codon ring, that kind of gave birth to this whole thing, didn't it? Yeah, because our very first Wizardly Words was born out of our love for words. And this Gene Key 62 has such a lot to do with it. So my relationship with you've been instrumental in opening up this whole world of language and words and myth and stories in a way that is so joyful and playful. And this is serious work that we're doing, but you let me do it in a playful way, which is just, there's a lot of tears in this work.
There is.
But there's actually more laughter. We have so much fun with words. And, my relationship with my husband, it was born out of words. We were in a long distance relationship for years before we even, came together physically in the same space, talking every day, sharing words, and words have been, and story has been an, integral part of that relationship and growing it. And like I say, I mean, he's just a natural storyteller himself. And I feel like even like our love story to me is like a magical story, Finally, it took 25 years, but finally we got together.
Well, and if you think about it, you almost need that 25 years to put it into the myth category.
Yeah, exactly.
The mythic love story.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's a good thing he doesn't listen to these podcasts.
I know, I was thinking the same thing when I was talking about my husband. I went, oh, I hope nobody puts two and two together who's listening, and they might know him. Oh, my God. We have one last question. And I don't know how Lizzie will answer it but I do have one answer for this. The shared magic between our lines. What happens when Regency and myth sit together? So how I answered it is Regency holds a respectful field, and myth gives that field language, story, and symbol.
Ah, that's lovely.
Yeah, I thought like that probably.
You need to write that down for me so that I can remember that.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I did not make any notes on this question. Well, I did. I wrote Regency and myth. I actually wrote, and then I thought, I'm just going to wait and see where the
Yeah,
conversation goes.
yeah.
This conversation goes, and actually, I, you know, I've got this. Like I said earlier, answering those one of the earlier questions, I have this. I mean, because I've got Jinky 64 as well in my EQ, which is imagination. So
Yes.
I've got this huge world inside me that is magical and mythical, and every mythical land needs a regent, so I've
Yes.
you are the regent, you are the
The steward
you're the
of a mythical
steward
land.
of this mythical land of
Right.
mine
And you're
in
you're
so
you're
many
the
ways.
storytelling bard slash knight, you know?
Yeah. Oh, so much fun. So
Oh,
much fun. Yeah.
okay. I have a whimsical question for you.
Okay, go on then.
All right. You remember we wrote fairy tale last
Yes.
year when we were in our SQ? We each
Yeah, I think
wrote
so.
we each wrote fairy tales about one of our gene keys. I happened to write mine about 36, and you wrote yours about 48, I think, because there
48.
was a
Yeah.
whale in it. No, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you were writing a fairy tale about the love story between your purpose key and your attraction key,
Yeah.
Richard has given us that assignment to write a love story between your purpose sage word and your attraction sage. Okay. If you then, instead of the love story just being, our common paragraph about how they interact, what if it was a fairy tale? Who would the characters be in the fairy tale?
Oh, okay.
I can go first if you want.
Yeah, you go first while I think about this.
Because since I made up the question, I have an answer. I'm actually writing a fairy tale about it right now. I have the tea lady, the rain queen, and the wandering crown.
Ah.
So the tea lady refers to my mildness. It talks about when drinking a fine tea one day, I came across a strange anomaly. Uh, as the tea became weaker, the chi became stronger. So I've got the tea lady who lives in a village, and she makes incredibly weak tea. And everyone's making fun of her for making this weak tea. But it turns out when they drink the weak tea, they actually become stronger and they have the strength to face their grief, or they have the strength to apologize to a neighbor, or they have these interesting strengths, right? Then along comes a crown, to just this wandering little crown. And it keeps hopping. People will see the crown, they go, oh, I want to put that on. And they become very self important when they put the crown on. Then the crown leaves, and then in comes the rain queen, the summer rain. And then a love story happens between the rain queen and the tea lady. And they each help each other with their shadows, basically, help each other with their shadows, while the whole village becomes transformed as the crown finds its rightful place, not as a crown making people important, but a crown just being a crown. So I'm not sure how it
Okay.
ends. I don't know. Somehow it all comes together.
Okay. Oh, okay. So my purpose sage word was affinity. So it's 48.3. Um, okay. So the fairy tale is, so there's this woman, and her name, I don't know what her name is yet, but it needs to be a play on the word affinity. And she is stuck at the bottom of a well
Oh, yeah.
because Jinky
Yeah, because of the
48 is
well
the
and
well.
GK48.
And she's trapped at the bottom of this deep, dark well. And the attraction myth character is a knight who's coming to rescue her. But the twist in the tale is that everyone thinks, because it's like a knight in armor on a horse, and they've got a sword and a lance and all that business. They expect it to be a man, but actually the twist of the tale is that the knight is a woman. And I don't quite know, because obviously you've just sprung this on
I know,
me.
I just sprung
I
it
don't
on
quite
you.
know how she does it, but she does rescue her from the well. And it turns out that they are sisters. That's the love story. That they are sisters who were separated at birth.
I
And
like
now
that.
they've come back together.
Oh,
So, yeah. Yeah.
how fun.
Off the, yeah.
Off the tip of your tongue, off the tip
Off
of your
the top
head.
of my head. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so mine is a bit similar. So you are the regent of this mythical land.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of three parts, So what is your name?
Mm.
And what is your land called?
Mm.
And what symbols are on your coat of arms?
You do know I've made a coat of arms before, but that was just with my activation sequence. All right, I don't have a name for the regent yet. Let's see, what is the name of my land? Boy, these are hard. You
Will I
go
go
ahead and
first?
say yours. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm the queen, but I'm not queen something or somebody. I'm crow woman.
Ooh, cool.
I tried to get the Irish for crow women, and I think it's Ban Prachoin, but my friend Trina will probably tell me I've pronounced that completely wrong, but it's crow women. And the land is it's called, well, we out here in this other world, we just call it the land of myth because it's got this magical name that we're not allowed to say outside of the land, because if you say the name of the land when you're not actually in the land, then the portal to the land closes. So I can't tell you what the name is. I'm sorry. I can't say it on a podcast because I'll never get back there. And my coat of arms features the crow because I am crow woman, and the toad.
Mm. I'm sorry, I was so caught up in your story. I haven't thought of what mine are. But I love taking it out of, Crow Woman immediately makes me think of the Native American. So let's go. Let's go with my Native American name that my husband gave me, which is Firebonnet, Queen Firebonnet.
Ah, I like that.
Now it's more Ember Woman, but white, I don't know. White Firebonnet. That's what somebody named me on Discourse, actually, White Firebonnet. So let's go with that, White Firebonnet. And the land is just vast. The land is just vast.
Okay.
And maybe it doesn't need a name.
It just is.
It just is vast. And maybe it's like yours, doesn't want people to know its name.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a coat of arms, I think if I'm thinking of more of a Aboriginal rulership, it would be more a gathering of stuff, like things like feathers and that kind of thing, rather than a coat of arms. So, magpie feathers in my hat right now. So there's a magpie feather and some kind of rock that is a teardrop, so it reminds me of rain.
Oh.
Yeah. So the summer rain comes in and yeah, I don't relate. Oh, and an ant. Let's put some ants on there. It's only because
Okay.
of the dream arc animals for this key. Yes, bison is on there and an ibis. And I don't relate really to an ibis. A bison is huge, but those ants, that
Yeah.
that those ants, they're such busy little, and they're all over. They come, they're not all over. I promise I don't have an infestation of ants. It just feels like when they come up onto my desk, it's like, oh, hello, are you reminding me of 45 right now? But then I have spiders as well, which remind me of my 50, which is
Yeah.
coming up next. But anyway, all right. So yeah, that's an interesting, a magpie feather, a teardrop rock that reminds me of rain and some ants.
Excellent. Very good.
All right.
Ah.
Well,
Oh,
thank you, Lizzie. This has been
oh,
great
thank
fun.
you. Those
And
questions are just so
yeah,
good, Megan.
and we'll put the questions into
Yes.
the text of our podcast so that not on the podcast outlets, but on our website. We'll have those
Yes.
questions if people
And then
want
you
to
can ask
yeah,
yourselves those
ask yourself those
questions. Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Because this has opened up, the questions are just great. They just opened up so much for me in that one word.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So thank you everyone for listening, and we will talk to you again in another couple of weeks.
We
So
will. Thank
have
you.
a wonderful time. If you are on the Sage's Golden Path journey, have a wonderful time in this attraction sphere. And if you are not on the Sage's journey, have an amazing time within whichever sphere you're playing in now.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody.